Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of 1 Timothy. Today we're looking at 1 Timothy chapter 1 verses 3 and following. Paul is now beginning the heart of his letter to Timothy. We've looked the last couple of days at the introduction, the greeting, and now he begins to give his advice to Timothy, his encouragement, his instruction. Notice how Paul begins. He said, "As I urged you when I went to Macedonia, stay in Ephesus." Now, this tells us that Timothy had been left behind in the city of Ephesus. Now, remember, Paul had evangelized Ephesus on his third missionary journey and had established a rather thriving church there. It was from Ephesus, which is the chief city of Asia Minor, which is Western Turkey today. It was from Ephesus, though, that all of that province had been evangelized. Great church in Ephesus, but they had their difficulties as well. And so at some later point in time after the church had been founded, probably a few years later, Paul is in Ephesus again, and he leaves to go to Macedonia, which is northern Greece, and he leaves Timothy in Ephesus. He says, "I want you to stay in Ephesus. Continue to lead the church, continue to pastor the church, continue to direct their ministry." So Timothy is involved in his own ministry now in the city of Ephesus, leading the church, the vital church in that area. And this is what Paul tells him he must do. There's a problem has arisen in Ephesus that Timothy has to deal with, a problem about false teaching. Let's continue. "I urged you when I went into Macedonia to stay in Ephesus so that you may command certain people not to teach false doctrines any longer, or to devote themselves to myth and endless genealogies. Such things promote controversial speculations rather than advancing God's work, which is by faith. The goal of this command is love, which comes from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith. Some have departed from these and have turned to meaningless talk. They want to be teachers of the law, but they do not know what they are talking about or what they so confidently affirm." So there's a problem with some in Ephesus who are promoting false teaching or false doctrine. And Paul says to Timothy, as a matter of first importance, you must put a stop to this false teaching. There are those who are promoting that which is incorrect doctrine, false doctrine. It is not true to the faith as you have received it. And you must not allow this teaching to go on in the church. You must not allow this teaching to flourish, for it pulls people away from deepening their faith. You must put a stop to false teaching. Now, the way you stop false teaching is by promoting that which is true. True doctrine, true understanding, true biblical teaching. This is what Timothy must preach and teach and certify in the church of Ephesus. And he must not allow that teaching which is against the Bible, against Christian doctrine, against the core faith. Now, in the days to come, we'll talk a little bit about what this false doctrine was, but today I just want us to understand that it's very important to Paul that Timothy make sure the teaching in the church in Ephesus is sound teaching, and that false teaching is stopped. It must cease. It must not be allowed. You know, I know there are some in the church today who say doctrine is not important. And it really doesn't matter what you believe as long as you believe something and you believe it sincerely. And so they allow all kind of teaching in the church, whether it's true or not, is of no importance to them. I know there are some who feel that way, but let me tell you, Paul was not one of them. Paul was convinced we must hold to true doctrine, to the core of the faith as we've received it in Jesus Christ. And part of Timothy's instruction, this first thing he mentions to him is, do not allow this false teaching to flourish. And you counter false teaching by teaching that which is true, by teaching that which is holy, by teaching that which is apostolic, or as we would say today, by teaching that which is thoroughly biblical. So there's this insistence by the Apostle Paul that a vital part of Timothy's ministry is to preach the truth as it is found in Jesus Christ. True doctrine, true theology, and to counter that false teaching which is beginning to endanger the faith of many. So we must be committed to the truth as we know it in Jesus Christ. We must be committed to biblical authority and the teaching of true doctrine. This is what Paul tells Timothy. Command certain people not to teach false doctrine any longer. We'll continue looking at this in our next few sessions, so I hope you join us for our next session in this 5-minute Bible study in the book of 1 Timothy.